And today, and I'm hoping you won't be too upset with me or upset at all, but I think there's two things we need to address, and one of them is the passing of your partner and wife of many, many years, Roz.
Okay.
If you're up to it, I'd like to do it.
Oh,
Um,
no, that's fine. Well, you said
because
there were
I'd
two
never want
things.
to put you on the spot. I would.
Well, what's the second thing? You said there were two.
Well, I think, and we're going to talk about that and let people know about that in just a little bit. But it
Okay.
is forms of death, maybe.
Okay. So
We may,
let's talk about something little like death.
yeah, why not? You know, well, I think
Okay.
in a way, people shy away from it, and we know our
Yeah.
whole lives
Yeah.
that this is
Hey,
what they.
folks, before we continue, I'm Ken Weene. My partner in crime is Monica Brinkman, and we're two crazy old folks.
And you can
Okay.
tell because I just started right into the show. You're all supposed to just know us.
Yeah, right. And what you may or may not know, but you may or may not have known, but now you probably do know, is that about 5 weeks ago, my wife, Roz, died. She died at her own decision and by her own method. Um, and I've been living with that. And Monica and I thought maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah.
Um,
I'd like to talk about Roz a little bit, though.
well, yes, hang on one sec, folks. I have to get something to show you.
Yeah, and I'm glad that Ken decided to do this, folks, because Roz is one special lady, and I've never met Roz in person, but through Ken, I've grown to know her and consider her a very dear friend. So,
So
here we go. I
this is
love
a
it.
present my wife gave me a couple of years ago on my birthday. That was my this many years old birthday, which is every year. And underneath it says, Sloth enjoying his birthday party. Hope yours is as wild. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing you have to know about my wife is that she had a great sense of humor and she thought of herself as a sloth. Okay. She was a very artistic person.
Yes. And the type of art.
Well, that varied too, But here's another example. This is called Slothy Coffee Break. And this was her favorite medium, which is acrylic painting. Okay. So,
I love her artwork. You can feel the humor in it,
yep.
when that's intended. And but not only that, it's more what I consider a folk type of art, if you know what I
Oh,
mean, Ken.
absolutely. Yes. If we had a choice of going to see a museum with modern masters and a museum with folk art, we went to both. There was never a choice, folks. I never got a choice, but I was happy to go to both.
Yeah, well, I'm
So,
glad that they made that an art form because some of it's exceptional and the things that people utilized back then. But her artwork that I saw always made me feel good.
yes, except when it was meant to make people feel bad. And she did a whole
Yes.
lot of political stuff, folks. Very
Yeah, but
strong
I'm talking
political.
about like the chickens and the,
Yeah, yeah. And I'm thinking of the picture of the little boy in the closet, and he's cringing in the closet, and his father is standing. You just see the back part of the back of the father was standing there with his strap. And we showed that. I say we because I would help her hang her shows in a show on Long Island. And the little boy came in and just sat there staring at it.
oh
And
my
he was
gosh.
trembling. And oh, yeah, she did some very powerful art. But that was only one of her art forms. Art was only one of her art forms. The other was living with me.
And
So
baking.
yeah, she was a wonderful, wonderful cook. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
cooking, baking,
and,
Yeah,
and
she took
and
care of you.
she was
I
good with animals.
know.
She was very good with animals. She was great with dogs, and she was great with horses. And oh, well, but she reached a point, and this is something we have to consider in lives. Is like, at what point is it worth going on and not?
Yes.
So in this particular instance, first of all, her aunt was deteriorating because of her glaucoma. And she had not caught the glaucoma earlier because she detested going to doctors. And that was all I could do to ever get her to any kind of a physician. Um, and the other part of it was that she had very bad osteoarthritis, and she was in pain, and she couldn't enjoy life anymore. And so one day she decided that that was enough. Quality of life no longer was good enough. Um, Leaving me, well, to cope. So how have I
Did,
coped?
did you talk about this with her previously or?
Well, we had agreed on this for years. We had, now I have one, we had two canisters of nitrogen.
Mhm.
People used to use helium, and the government realized that they were using helium to end their lives, to self-exit. And so they passed a law. Well, I guess also some young people did it by accident, but they passed a law that when you buy helium now, 20% of the tank has to be oxygen. So basically, you cannot kill yourself with helium anymore. You just wake a lot, but you can't kill yourself. Um, but nitrogen works almost as well. It does the same thing. It basically because nitrogen is 80% of the air you're breathing is nitrogen to begin with. Your body doesn't register it as anything unusual, and you just go to sleep. And we had talked about this. We'd studied up how to do it. And as I said, we had two tanks. Now we have one because I asked our handyman to dispose of the one that Roz had
Yeah.
used. Uh, and um, she waited till I was leaving the house. I mean, did I know that day? Yeah, I
So
figured.
I was wondering, did you have any inkling? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, she told me. Yeah, I knew. I had seen it kind of coming, and in retrospect, I should have seen it more clearly. But that morning, she did tell me, and she said to me, you know, please don't make it harder and try and talk me out of it. And I thought for a minute, and I respected her wish. Not because I didn't want, I didn't want to leave the room. I didn't want to, but
Yeah. Yeah.
oh,
I'm sure you.
yeah, yeah. The funny thing about it is that I had the place I was going was to get my blood labs done for my,
Oh, the
for
results.
a doctor's appointment. And
Yeah.
when I saw the doctor a few days later, of course, by that point, it was like a week later, and she was passed. But when the doctor couldn't understand why my blood sugar was so high because I had been fasting. Well, I knew my wife was dying, and everything in my body was going boom, boom, boom. But
Yeah.
I dragged myself out. I dragged myself up there because I was determined to respect her. And I will say,
What she would want you to do.
when I came back and found her, it was the most relaxed and at ease I had seen her in months because
Mm.
she had been in pain, and she every
Was
time.
it all the time, Cam? I mean,
Yeah, I would say it was all the time. It was only a question: was it excruciating or just pain? I would say
yeah. Yeah.
the amount that was excruciating was increasing more. By the way, if people look on my website and if they search around, there's an essay I wrote a while back about how I'll know when it's time for me to do the same. And I have, at that point, because I'm not in pain, but
Right.
I have a list of things. It's not all of the things, but I have a list of the things that I look at every day, tasks I give myself every day. And when I cannot do them, I look at it. I look and see. The same thing is, I recently gave up driving car.
Hmm.
It's not that I can't drive. It's just that I had a checklist of, okay, should I be driving? Should I? That's how I approach my life. I have criteria. I have metrics in my life.
Right.
How am I doing at this? How am I doing at that?
Yeah.
And so anyway, uh, what's it like living as a widower?
Yeah.
The first
There
thing,
has to be and I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but there has to be like this emptiness that was there.
well, yes and no. It's funny. Something will go on, or I'll think of something, or I'll write something, and my immediate decision, or my immediate response reaction is, "Oh, Roz, I want to call her. I want to talk to her."
Yeah, yeah.
In that sense, there's a terrible emptiness. But then, in another sense, I feel her so present with me that I
Oh,
do feel that emptiness.
oh.
Um, and in the middle of the night, I wake up and talk with her, and she's very there.
Is it
Uh,
around 2:30, 3 o'clock? Like
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's around 2:30 most nights.
that's the
And then
most times
yeah,
I've been told that
yeah, yeah.
people are nearest to us.
But usually I also again, earlier and later, but that's really the peak hour, yeah, around 2:30ish.
But
And
did you get any little signs? You know,
oh, it's weird. I'm hearing things in the house
hmm?
that I never noticed. Now, I don't know whether they're, new sounds or whether it's just that I'm noticing them now.
Yeah,
Who knows?
right, right. You just have to see.
Yeah, but
Time
but
goes on.
I do feel that presence, and she's always, urging me on, but also always telling me don't make an ass of myself.
I can hear her saying
And I do both. I go on and I make an ass of myself.
that. Oh,
But there are some things that actually, I'm going to admit this. There are some things that are better, and she had told me that she thought they would be. One of the things that's better is I have a lot more time because all the time that I was spending, for instance, in the morning, okay, I'd have to help her with the medication.
mhm,
I'd have to help her uh, with get rubber back, which was a very pleasant thing to do, but I had that. She was using a commode, I had to clean that. I had to make sure her clothes were out. Then I had to make her breakfast
mhm.
and serve her breakfast.
Yeah, right.
And
You were the caregiver.
yeah, a caregiver. And that's every now morning now I wake up and I'm eating breakfast and I'm saying, wait a minute, how come I'm eating breakfast so fast? Well, it was a half hour of stuff I'm not doing that
Yeah.
it's not that I don't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. It's just simply that I have that time. Same thing at night.
Yeah, you're noticing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 I'm doing a lot less wash. I was doing the laundry. I'm doing a lot less. Even though I'm doing all the cooking now, other than the fun cooking, like trying to bake pies and stuff like that, uh, it takes much less time because, for one thing, I'm only cooking one thing. You know, uh, there were a lot of things. It's not that they would involve to cook, but that, for instance, she likes certain things that I won't eat, not because I'm picky, but because I'd eat them, and I shouldn't because they're very carb heavy.
Mhm.
Toward the end, the doctor was concerned that she was losing too much weight, and
Yeah.
so she went from being on this carb light diet to being, oh, let's have a chicken pot pie. well, okay, fine. I'll make you a chicken pot pie, but I can't eat it because
Yeah,
I'm still on my low carb diet. So I'm cooking two things, and
that's difficult. Yeah,
well,
very difficult because it's
it's
so
time
opposite.
consuming. Time
Yeah,
consuming. So, in that
but
sense,
you did it out of love. So,
oh, well, hey, not only out of love, I enjoy doing it. It's not, see, it wasn't like it was a negative task to cook that chicken pot
you're
pie.
just noticing that it's
Yeah, it's just
different.
that I have all that more time. The other thing is that, and this is very funny, she had it certain limits for me in her head. That's the only way I can explain it. Now, some of them are based on reality. Okay. When I say I'm only this many years old, the joke is that when I went to kindergarten, I never learned to cut and paste because these do not connect with this. Okay. This is word heavy. This is intellectual. These don't function. Plus, if you might notice, they're also relatively short, and stubby fingers. So I'm not very good at using my hands. Um, and so we used to joke that I wasn't allowed to use scissors or sharp knives or things. And so when I turned this many years old, Roz bought me my own scissors. So she had these limits on what I was allowed to do, and probably not stupidly so. I'm probably very well advised so, actually. Um, but sometimes it got a little bit strange. Like if I wanted to make corn,
Mhm.
which I shouldn't eat too much because it's starchy, blah blah blah. But I like corn, and I would say something about getting corn, and she would say, "Well, get canned corn," and I'd want to get popcorn.
Yeah,
And
you can always cut it off the cob. Yeah,
well, I like that.
I do too. I still do that. Yeah.
But the thing was that she would insist that she didn't want to shuck the corn.
Ah,
Now, okay, why can't I shuck the corn?
you could. Yeah.
Well, you don't know how. Now, the thing that makes this very strange is that many years ago, Roz and I went away, to it's a Quaker retreat. I don't know if it's still, I don't think it is still existent, but it was called Pendle Hill. It was in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, yeah. I live
We,
near there. Yeah.
we spent a weekend there.
Kendall. Yep.
Yeah. And everybody who goes to Pendle Hill to spend a weekend, you do some kind of helping task. You contribute to the group. And it happened that Roz and I spent a couple hours one day shucking corn at Pendle Hill. So it isn't just simply that I grew up in Maine shucking corn to eat corn, which was also true, but she and I had sat there for 2 hours shucking corn together. And yet she got it in her
She
head that
had. Look at
these could not shuck corn.
yeah, so she
So,
had love. I mean,
so next corn season, I will have corn.
yeah, yeah, I'm sure you will. I sure you will. And I wanted to ask you a question, and what would you say to people who tell you that it's a sin to have euthanasia of any sort?
For people. Okay.
And they could be religious people. I mean, I know many quote Bibles about it.
Okay. First of all, okay, before we get into that, I want to point out that self-exiting is not the same thing as physician-assisted suicide. And physician-assisted suicide, which is like euthanasia,
Hmm.
is what we're talking about now. Um, so the two questions you're asking, one is life sacred and is killing a sin, and the other is do people have the right to end their own lives, or is that a sin? So there are two different sins on the table, if you will. Okay. First of all, I think if you say life is sacred, then you have to be a Jain. Now, I have known a few Janes. One was the mother-in-law of a very dear friend of mine. Well, actually, I shouldn't say it that way because his wife was also a very dear friend. And Janes believe that all life is sacred. And so, for example, in the traditional, they wear a mask so they shouldn't inhale any insects or inadvertently. They sweep the path in front of them so they shouldn't step on anything. They don't cut plants. They wait for the fruit or the whatever to fall. And, it's a very difficult religion to practice. It's found in southern India primarily.
Mhm.
And okay. And if you believe all life is sacred, then I guess it leads you there. I believe life and death are both sacred. I believe that, you know, to the degree that there is a God who is put everything in motion, that God put everything in motion, life and death. And, you know, even if you are a very extraordinarily devout dispositionalist Christian, believing in the end times, the Reconstructionist Christians you and I have talked about, so that includes death in God's plan. Okay, so um, do I believe that it is right or wrong to kill? I'm a carnivore. Okay, I believe it should be that when we're killing animals for food or for our convenience, it should be in as humane a method as possible. My dogs, whom I love dearly, I had them put down. I did not want to watch them suffer. I could not watch them suffer.
No, no, it was horrible. Yeah, each time we had to do that. Yeah.
Um, you know, Now, what about people? Should people suffer? I'm very strongly of the belief in physician-assisted suicide. I have been for years. But the problem with the physician-assisted suicide, the sin in it is that it doesn't allow the individual to decide upon the time. It requires the doctors to say, well, you only have 6 months to live, so now it's all right to die. Well, if I developed Alzheimer's, and that's one of the things that, yeah, I'm looking for in my little list, is I want to end my life well before I'm 6 months away from death. Why? Because the cognitive life that is really me, that is who I and what I am about, would be over long before that.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Is
uh,
life living or just existing?
yeah, exactly. So, I would say that the real sin in my mind is stopping people from making rational decisions about the quality of their lives. Now, does that mean that anybody who, say, tries to commit suicide, um, that we shouldn't try and save them? No, I think that we should try and save them until, if they're trying to commit suicide when they're young and apparently healthy, and make sure that they're making a rational decision. But that would mean giving them ways to commit suicide that they could do if they could give you a reason why they are. Okay. In other words, if it isn't a mental health issue, if it's well, because I no longer can do these things that are most meaningful to me, or I cannot reach these, and there are other things you could be, and you have that discussion, and they say, should we allow people to end their lives? Yes. Uh, should we recognize what we can help and what we can't help? That's another totally separate kind of thing. Okay, let's say that somebody is depressed, they try and commit suicide. We realize that it's only depression, it's not, based on rational decision. We get them past it, they do it again, get it past it, they do it again. How many times do we keep reviving them? Well, let me ask it a different way. Somebody ODs on drugs. Do we give them naltrexone? Of course we do. AOD again. Do we give them naltrexone? Of course we do. AOD again. Do we give them naltrexone again? I'm not so sure. Okay. And at what point are we trying to impose our will? And is it right? Is it right to impose our will on other humans? Or does freedom, the freedom we believe in, include the freedom to not exist?
But my only issue with all of that is I think that the wrong people might be able to take something like that and run with it. And
Oh, absolutely. And they have, because all you have to do is declare that some person or group of persons are in some way inferior, not living quality of life or whatever. And then you get eugenics, whether it's through killing, as for example in Nazi Germany, where people who were considered intellectually unfit, people we used to call retarded, were killed, and they were killed viciously too. By the way, I mean it wasn't even. Or in this country, our mutual friend uh, Mike Phillips, a historian, and his wife recently came out with a book on eugenics in Texas, in which he discusses the whole movement. Um, Another good friend of ours, although I haven't seen him in ages, Charles Vargas, who the member of the Apache Nation from San Carlos, who has been on our talk show, our podcast in
yeah,
the past. His wife, Elizabeth, told me that when she was giving birth to their children, that the health service on the res tried to get her to sign a paper to have her tubes tied. That she, being intelligent and being educated and able to read well, went through the papers, not trusting the res doctors, not trusting perhaps if it had been a Native American physician, she might have
yeah,
just, but she read every word and she refused to sign it. And but that many of the people on many of the women had,
yeah. They
thereby
didn't know what they were signing.
eugenics. Yeah,
Yeah,
eugenics. So and then we have the question, and this is a reasonable question. Okay, it is a reasonable question. You have somebody who is quite intellectually handicapped, and it is genetic, and they are married to somebody else who is intellectually handicapped, and it is genetic. And so the likelihood of producing a handicapped, a limited person is very high. Okay. Should we stop those people from breeding? And I don't have a simple-minded answer. That's the question you were raising, Monica. And like so many social policy issues, I don't have
I
simple-minded
just
answers.
find that many times when something starts as a good idea,
When does it become a slippery slope?
yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
and
what
I don't know
scares
the
me
answer.
about. That's the only thing. And I absolutely think that if you're in excruciating pain all the time,
Mhm, mhm.
you,
You should
you
be free to kill
should
yourself.
you should have that right of choice,
Right, right.
not
So
somebody
we're
else.
talking, yeah.
You know, and that's I would never want someone else to get in control of a decision like that, is what I'm saying.
Well, but then we get into another thing, okay,
Yeah,
which
dementia.
is, but we do intervene. We intervene all the time. We do try and stop people's behavior, and that's right too. I mean, if you know somebody who's an alcoholic and you see them
Oh no, I'm just
deteriorating,
talking
and you
about
intervene to get them to go into a treatment program,
nothing like that, Ken. No, no.
well, but in a sense, it's the same. Again, it's that same slope. And the question is, how do we know when to keep our mouth shut versus when to say something? How do we know when to give the naltrexone, whether to withhold it? How do
Hmm.
we know? And the answer is that it's got to be an ongoing process. And this gets us into a very interesting problem. Okay. The biggest problem, I think, in the United States today is that we created processes that are self-running. We've created bureaucracies and courts that keep maintaining themselves. So instead of having people who are concerned coming together, the community. You see, in the
Hmm.
old days, it would have been like the parish or the town.
Yes.
I grew up in New England, the town meeting,
Right. Right.
and old Silas, he ain't got none of his brains left. What should we do about it? You know? And the community had come together and they'd figure out, well, who was going to stay with Silas, how they were going to do this and that. We don't do that anymore.
I
We don't.
know, and that's what's missing so much.
And
It's
so we have this bureaucracies doing it. And
yeah,
the bureaucracies can't make meaningful decisions.
yeah, they can't make those decisions. You're right.
So that's the real problem. How do we bring together real people? There was somebody once said that the best way to elect our political officials, especially our legislatures, the best way to form our legislatures is periodically go through the phone book at random and select people. Now, the biggest problem with that was we don't have a phone book anymore. And some of the people watching this may not even know what a phone book is.
Yeah.
It was this big thing with all our names. And they literally were saying, wouldn't it be just as good a plan? And, we do that in a sense. We call them juries. When we put together a jury, okay, it's based on that very idea of randomly selecting from
A mix of
across
people.
across yeah, the people usually they're on the voter rolls or something like that rather than the telephone to make sure they are citizens. But basically that's what the jury system is. And the funny thing is the jury system works very well. And you know what else is not so funny, but maybe ironically in a strange way funny? If you were ever on a jury or you ever go to court, one of the things you realize is that the whole legal system is working very hard to remove the jury, to do away with the jury role. By that I mean, if they're going to argue something, the jury has to leave the room.
Hmm.
If the somebody says something, instead of being able to evaluate it, the jury is told disregard
Just
this.
strike it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then worse than all thing, at the end, then the lawyers will agree on something. They'll reach an agreement, and the jury will be excused for your service, even though they haven't done anything except sit there. And it's
I got a
all
plea bargain.
and yeah, plea bargain. And
Yeah.
it's all being done in part for the system to avoid that random selection of people. And the assumption that is made in our system is that we, the people, we talk about that a lot. I know you particularly do, Monica. We, the people, is very sacred to us.
Yes.
Yet, what we have to understand is government by its very nature, and any bureaucracy, any organization by its very nature, is designed to remove we, the people, and replace it. And therein lies something we could talk about for hours, but I think we're running out of time, Monica.
Yes, we are. And I just want to say that you have so many people who are really holding your hand right now and who love you.
Mhm.
And you've been very brave. And we appreciate it. Now, also, real fast, can we find Roz's artwork anywhere?
There is some of it on my website. So if they look for my name and look for Roz's Art, they can find it. And if they contact me through the website, and I can let them know if any of it is still available for sale. And there is a gallery up in the Phoenix area, and I can direct them to that as well. And I believe that's listed on the website too.
It sounds great, Ken. Love you. Thank you so much for sharing such intimate
Thank
details
you.
with us today, but I think it'll help many people. And folks, take care. As always, Ken and I say we love you.
And have a slothy day.
Bye bye.